Hello, today I'm going to be sharing my spring TBR. I am such a mood reader that I cannot do monthly TBRs. Like, I would not be able to follow it at all. It would be a pointless video to make. But I do like creating seasonal TBRs, and just to show you the books that are at the top of my TBR in that moment, they may not be all the books I read during that season. Because again, temperamental mood reader. But it gives you an idea of like what I'm looking forward to read. So let's get started. The first book on my spring TBR is A Certain Hunger by Chelsea Summers. This book follows a food writer, and all I know is that it somehow turns into cannibalism. And I think it's like cannibalism as a metaphor for love or like some shit like that, which we keep seeing in media these days, which is a trope that I love personally. I have seen this book all over like book talk especially, and people like rave about its writing. And to be honest, the book cover is really what got me. I love when they use like classic art on a book cover. Maybe not a classic, I don't think this is a classic art, but this is definitely like an oil painting. I love oil paintings on covers of books, I can't help it. So this is one that I'm definitely looking forward to and I really want to pick up soon. After that we have The Two Towers by J.R.R. Tolkien. This is the second book in the Fellowship of the Ring trilogy. The Lord of the Ring trilogy, I don't know why I called it the Fellowship of the Ring trilogy. This is a classic. This is a staple fantasy that everyone knows and loves. I, however, have only read The Fellowship of the Ring and The Hobbit. I've read The Hobbit like 3 fucking times, I think, and I think I've read The Fellowship like 2 or 3 times as well, but I've never proceeded after that. So I've never gotten to this book, and I love these cute little editions. They look like little Bibles, and the writing, can you see this? The writing is so teeny, so tiny. So it's gonna be a hard one to read, but I'm committed to it and I really want to read it. Then we have a little bit of nonfiction, and that is Worn by Sophie Thanhauser. This is A People's History of Clothing, so it tells you the social history of linen, cotton, silk, synthetics, and wool. I don't know what it is about this book, but I'm so interested in the subject. I love like niche histories. Like I have a book on my shelves that's about the history of like the dictionary, like small little things like that I'm so interested in. I don't know why. I think this one makes a bit more sense because I'm really interested in fashion, and especially like historical fashion. So learning more about the things that make up fashion makes sense, obviously, then as an interest. I picked this up in my local anarchist bookstore though, and I've been wanting to read it ever since. It's definitely at the top of my TBR when it comes to nonfiction. Then we have a book I don't know much about, and that is Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. What I do know is that this is her take on like a gothic tale. Jane Austen has been very hit or miss for me. For the most part, I just think her books are okay, but I loved Emma. Pride and Prejudice, alright. Emma's where it's at. But I do have 2 more of her books to read, including this one, so I do want to give it a shot. I also am still going to be in school this spring, which fries my brain. I'm in law school. I mention this every fucking video. I'm so obnoxious about it. I'm sorry. But I feel like Jane Austen is like an easier classic to read. So as much of it I have any hope of reading any classics before the school year is over, this is going to be the one. Then I have a book that I've been putting on so many TBRs for like ever since I've had it, I feel like. And that is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chokshi. This book, in my head it's Bluebeard retelling, but no one else has said that, so maybe I'm off base. But it follows this woman who gets married, it follows this woman who gets married, and she tells her husband from day one, like, I love you, just don't inquire about my past, like, no matter what you do. And then something happens, and they have to travel to her childhood home, his curiosity is piqued, and he starts inquiring about her past. It's very mysterious. I'm sure the writing is gonna be lovely, because Roshni Chokshi just has a way with words. Her books have been hit or miss for me in the past as well, but she mainly has written YA, and this is her first, like, adult novel, which makes me really interested to pick this up. Then we have another book with an oil painting on the cover. Laona by Tesha Moshfegh. Another author that's been very hit or miss for me. I loved My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I hated McGlue. Death in Her Hands was alright. Aline I felt like was kind of overrated. These are my opinions. I'm sorry if they offend you. I'm sorry if those are your favorite books. I can't help it. Those are my thoughts. This one seems to be right up my alley. This, first of all, takes place in like a medieval town. Love that. Love a historical setting. Love a medieval setting because that's very fantasy-ish. Totally into that. And apparently it's about like class struggle, which that's my shit right there. And it's supposed to be a horror novel. So like all those 3 Those three things really tick off some boxes for me, so I'm really excited about this one. I've been hyping it up in my mind, which I think makes me like scared to pick it up because what if it isn't how I imagine it to be? But I just gotta pick it up at some point. And spring is perfect because there's a lamb on the cover. Well, it's a sheep, it's not a lamb. But you know, Easter? There's some connection there. Then we have a little bit of a different book from the rest of the ones, and that is Scythe by Neil Shusterman. This book takes place in a world where they have conquered death, so no one can die anymore, like naturally at least. So they created these people called Scythes that have to go around and kill people. I don't know why I'm laughing at that. I don't think that, oh, this is YA. That affects me wanting to read this. I didn't know this was YA. For some reason I thought it was adult, but it makes so much sense that it's YA now. Whatever, I'm still gonna give it a shot. I'm still interested in the premise. I'm not as into YA as I used to be, so that kind of disappoints me a little bit. I saw on the back that it said, these teens must master the art of taking life, and I was like, oh no. So, live reaction coming at ya, but I still want to read it. It's still on my TBR. It's still there. Next is a book I know nothing about, and I'm not gonna find out what it's about, and that is All's Well by Mona Awad. I picked this book up because I loved Bunny by Mona Awad so much. It's like my favorite book that I read last year. If I had to choose one book, that's it. And I want to read everything else she's written. Honestly, Rouge by her is the book that I really want to pick up next, but it's only sold in like hardcover right now, so it's so expensive, so I passed on that. I have no idea what this book is about. I know I like the cover. Like, that's nice. That's a nice cover. That's all I know. But I have trust in Mona Awad after reading one of her books. So hopefully this does not let me down. Next, we have Joan Didion's The Year of Magical Thinking. This is a book that she wrote after her husband and her daughter died. And so it's about, like, her dealing with that grief. I'm just picturing this is going to be, like, a very beautiful book. I've also, like, heard from a lot of people that this is their favorite book by her, which really piques my curiosity because, like, this is Joan Didion, you know? Like, every book by her is extraordinarily well written and, like, a masterpiece. So the fact that this is people's favorite of the bunch really says something. And this is, like, another non-fiction for me. Because I'm in school and my brain is fried, I have to pick up, like, some easier non-fiction, even though this is a very rough subject, but it's easier to read, like, a history of, like, colonialism in, like, Latin America or something. So, this is on my next TBR. I've lost sense of words, so don't listen to what I just said then. Two more books. Second to last is The Left Hand of Darkness. I Can Speak by Ursula Le Guin. I've only read one Ursula Le Guin book, that is The Dispossessed, but I loved it so much that ever since I have just bought every book by her that I've seen. This was the second book by her that I ever bought. It's probably the one I'm most excited about of all the ones I have on my TBR by her, because Ursula Le Guin talks about social issues. She also imagines, like, different worlds. Like The Dispossessed, she imagined a fully functioning anarchist society and, like, showed you how it worked, which was really, really cool to read about. She just has this gift for, like, imagining worlds without capitalism or, like, the norms as we know them, and it's just so interesting to read. It's so fascinating. So in this book, obviously she's taking on capitalism because she always is, but she's also taking on gender. So I believe it follows, like, an alien species that has no concept of gender at all, which sounds so interesting to explore. I'm sure this book is gonna make me think a lot of thoughts. I want to pick it up so badly, so this is high up on my TBR. And the last book I have to talk to you about today is Against the Loveless World by Susan Abuhawa. This book follows a woman who's living in an Israeli solitary confinement cell. She's Palestinian, of course, or who else is in an Israeli confinement cell? This is a book that I picked up because I want to read more about Palestinian authors. I want to read more about stories centering Palestinian people and the struggle. I've heard really, like, glowing reviews of this book as well, and I'm just really interested in the subject. So, high up on my TBR, I see myself reading this one very soon. So there you go. Those are the books that are on the top of my TBR for the spring. Let me know what books you want to read this spring down below, and I'll see you soon with another video. Goodbye.